That weathered, muddy-looking pebble you just stepped over. It could be hiding a sapphire worth hundreds of dollars. Most beachwalkers pass right by these gems every single day because they're looking for the wrong thing. Today, I'm showing you the exact three-step system professional gem hunters use to spot sapphire-bearing rocks that everyone else ignores. You'll learn the telltale metallic glint that separates worthless stones from potential treasures, the specific weight test that takes 5 seconds, and the one critical mistake that causes beginners to throw away valuable finds. Before you start your next beach search, you need to know what you're actually looking for, and it's nothing like what you'd expect. And stick around until the end because I'll reveal the best strategies for selling your precious gems. The channels professional prospectors use to get maximum value without getting ripped off by lowball offers. Good luck, gem hunters. Here's what you need to understand first. Sapphires aren't just those brilliant blue gemstones you see in jewelry stores. In their natural state, especially when they're tumbling around in coastal environments, they look completely different. We're talking about Montana, parts of the Pacific Northwest coast, certain Australian beaches, and even unexpected locations along the eastern seaboard where geological conditions are just right. The reason these gems end up on beaches is actually fascinating. Sapphires form deep underground, under extreme heat and pressure, locked inside host rocks called basalt, or metamorphic formations. Over millions of years, erosion breaks down these host rocks, freeing the sapphires. Rivers carry them downstream, and eventually they reach coastal areas where wave action continues to tumble and polish them alongside ordinary beach stones. The reality check. Now, let me destroy a fantasy right now before you waste months of your life. You will not find sparkling, faceted sapphires gleaming in the sand. That's movie nonsense. What you're actually searching for are rough, weathered stones that might have a slight unusual sheen, if you're lucky, and the light hits them right. Most sapphire-bearing rocks look like they've been through a geological war zone, covered in surface weathering, possibly stained with iron oxide that makes them look rusty or muddy brown. I've watched dozens of beginners walk right past valuable stones because they expected something beautiful. The truth, the ugliest, most boring-looking rock on the beach might be your biggest score. Professional prospectors know this. Nature doesn't package treasures in gift wrap. Managing expectations. Let's be realistic about what we're dealing with here. Finding gem-quality sapphires on beaches isn't like picking up seashells. It requires knowledge, patience, and understanding probability. For every actual sapphire you find, you'll examine hundreds of imposters. Spinel, corundum that's not gem quality, colored quartz, and even industrial-grade sapphire that has no commercial value. But here's the exciting part. It's absolutely possible. People find valuable sapphires on public beaches every single year. Some are small, suitable for accent stones and jewelry. Others, and this is what keeps prospectors coming back, are substantial gems that can be worth thousands after cutting. The difference between those who succeed and those who give up frustrated. Understanding exactly what to look for. Visual education setup. The system I'm about to teach you focuses on 3 progressive layers of identification. First, you'll learn to recognize the basic visual characteristics that distinguish potential sapphire-bearing rocks from ordinary beach stones. Second, you'll master the physical tests that confirm your suspicions without any expensive equipment. Third, you'll understand the quality indicators that tell you whether you found industrial-grade material or something genuinely valuable. Unlike what most people think, you don't need a geology degree or expensive testing equipment. The experienced prospectors I know use simple, repeatable methods that work in the field. Everything I'm about to show you can be done with tools that cost less than $20 total, most of which you probably already own. Visual identification. Exact appearance characteristics. First, you have to understand what raw sapphire actually looks like in a beach environment. The most important characteristic is what gemologists call adamantine to vitreous luster, but forget those technical terms. What you're looking for is a specific type of shine that's neither glassy nor metallic, but something in between. When you tilt a sapphire-bearing rock in sunlight, you'll notice light reflects off its surface differently than surrounding stones. The color will surprise you. Yes, blue is classic, but beach-worn sapphires come in pink, yellow, green, purple, and even colorless variations. Many appear muddy or cloudy because of surface weathering. That's actually a good sign. It means the stone has been tumbling naturally, which is exactly what we want. Artificially tumbled stones or glass look too perfect, distinguishing from lookalikes. Here's where beginners get fooled constantly. Blue quartz looks similar at first glance but lacks that distinctive luster I mentioned. Colored glass, and there's plenty on beaches, tends to have tiny air bubbles if you examine it closely. Spinel is the trickiest imposter because it's also a valuable gemstone, but it typically has perfect octahedral crystal shapes when found raw, whereas sapphires show hexagonal formations. The metallic luster test is your friend here. Sapphire has a specific way of catching light, almost like there's internal glow trying to escape. Common beach stones absorb light. Sapphire reflects it with intensity. This isn't subtle once you train your eye. Weight and texture distinctions. Now, here's a test that takes 5 seconds. The weight to size ratio. Sapphire has a specific gravity of 4.0, meaning it's significantly heavier than most rocks of similar size. Pick up a suspect stone and a similar-sized ordinary pebble. The difference should be immediately noticeable. If it feels unexpectedly heavy, like there's more packed inside than there should be, you've got reason for excitement. Texture-wise, raw sapphire feels smooth, but not slippery. Run your fingernail across it. You shouldn't be able to scratch it. That's because sapphire rates 9 on the Mohs hardness scale, second only to diamond. Any stone that shows scratches from a fingernail test is automatically eliminated. Location strategy. Geological context simplified. But does that mean you can find these gems anywhere? Absolutely not. Sapphire formation requires specific geological conditions. You need areas where basaltic rock formations or metamorphic rocks have been eroded and transported. This typically happens in regions with volcanic history or where ancient mountain ranges have broken down over millions of years. The Pacific Northwest coast, particularly areas of Montana near the Missouri River that eventually feeds coastal systems, provides ideal conditions. Parts of North Carolina's coast receive sediment from the Appalachian Mountains, where sapphire-bearing rocks exist. Australia's eastern beaches, especially around New South Wales, are famous for sapphire finds. Even Madagascar has coastal areas where gems wash up. Specific environments and formations. All you have to do is focus on gravel bars and areas where heavier materials naturally concentrate. Wave action sorts materials by density. That's basic physics working in your favor. Look for spots where the beach transitions from sand to gravel, especially after storms when wave energy has been high enough to move substantial material. Pay attention to natural collection points, inside curves of coastline where currents slow down, behind rock formations that create eddies, and areas where small streams enter the ocean. These are sediment traps where heavy materials accumulate, while lighter sand washes away. The color of surrounding rocks tells you a lot. Dark basaltic rocks, black or dark gray, indicate volcanic origin, which is promising. Metamorphic rocks with visible layering or banding suggest the high-pressure conditions where sapphires form. If everything around you is limestone or sandstone, move to a different beach. Indicator, minerals and signs. Professional prospectors know that certain minerals signal sapphire potential. Magnetite, the black magnetic sand you sometimes see concentrated in beach deposits, often accompanies sapphire because both are dense and both originate from similar geological settings. If you find areas with heavy black sand concentrations, spend extra time there. Garnets are another positive indicator. Not because they look like sapphires, but because garnet and sapphire often form in similar metamorphic environments. Find one, and the geological conditions suggest the other might be present. Red or orange staining on rocks indicates iron oxide, which commonly weathers out of the same formations that host sapphires. Don't ignore rusty-looking stones. Clean them off and examine what's underneath. Some of the most valuable finds initially look like worthless, stained rocks. Practical methods: step-by-step extraction and identification. Now here's where it gets interesting. You need a simple collection and testing system you can use right there on the beach. First, bring a small bucket or bag. You'll be examining lots of candidates before finding keepers. A spray bottle with water is essential because wetting rocks reveals characteristics hidden when they're dry. Start with a visual sweep of a promising area. Don't pick up every stone. You'll exhaust yourself. Instead, scan for rocks that have that unusual luster we discussed. When something catches your eye, pick it up and do the weight test. Too light? Toss it back. Feels dense? It goes in the bucket for further examination. For each candidate, spray it with water and observe how light interacts with the wet surface. Sapphire's luster intensifies when wet, while most imposters look duller. Rotate the stone slowly in sunlight. You're looking for consistent light reflection across the surface, not just a glint from one angle. Budget-friendly tool requirements. Everything I'm describing costs less than $15 total. A small magnifying glass, even a 10x jeweler's loupe from an online retailer, costs about $5. Lets you examine surface details. You're looking for hexagonal crystal structure remnants, even if worn down. A small piece of unglazed ceramic tile, often called a streak plate, costs nothing if you grab a scrap from a hardware store. This tests hardness. Sapphire won't leave a streak on the tile, but softer minerals will. This single test eliminates 80% of imposters. A strong magnet wrapped in a plastic bag helps identify magnetite and other magnetic minerals that might confuse you. Sapphire itself isn't magnetic, so if your suspect stone sticks to the magnet, it's not what you're looking for. Safety considerations. Here's what most people don't know. Safety isn't just about not cutting yourself on sharp rocks. Respect tide schedules. Getting trapped by rising tide while focused on your search is a real danger. Always check tide charts before heading out, and set a phone alarm to remind you when it's time to move to higher ground. Bring sun protection because you'll be bent over, exposing your neck and back for extended periods. Wear gloves, not thick work gloves that prevent you from feeling stone texture, but thin rubber gloves that protect from sharp edges while maintaining sensitivity. Never dig into cliffs or disturb nesting areas. Most productive beach prospecting happens in the active tidal zone, where natural processes constantly refresh material. Respect local regulations. Some beaches prohibit collecting entirely, while others allow personal collecting but ban commercial operations. Check before you go. Advanced recognition. Shape variations and natural formations. Before you find your first genuine sapphire, you'll likely encounter dozens of partial crystals and fragments. Unlike the perfect hexagonal crystals you see in museums, beach sapphires are typically rounded by constant tumbling, but they retain subtle clues. Look for flat planes intersecting at unusual angles. These are remnants of original crystal faces. Sapphires naturally form in hexagonal crystal systems, so even worn specimens often show six-sided symmetry if you look carefully. Hold suspected stones up and rotate them slowly. Can you spot 3 pairs of parallel surfaces, even if they're rounded? That's a strong indicator. Some sapphires show growth lines or color banding when held to light. Straight parallel lines of slightly different shades running through the stone. This is called color zoning and is characteristic of natural corundum, the mineral family sapphire belongs to. Glass and quartz don't show this pattern. Quality indicators and value assessment. Not all sapphires are created equal, and understanding quality determines whether you've found a $50 stone or a $500 stone. Transparency is the first factor. Hold your find up to bright light. Can you see light passing through even dimly? Gem quality sapphires are at least translucent, meaning light penetrates them. Completely opaque stones are industrial grade, used for abrasives, not jewelry. Color saturation matters tremendously. The secret is medium to medium dark tones. Too light and it's considered weak. Too dark and light can't interact with the stone properly. The most valuable blue sapphires have rich, vivid color that's neither pale nor muddy. Check for inclusions, internal flaws or foreign material trapped inside. Some inclusions actually increase value if they create phenomena like asterism, star effect, but most decrease it. Through your loupe, look for cracks, cloudy areas, or obvious internal defects. A few minor inclusions don't disqualify a stone, but major fractures render it worthless for cutting. Common mistakes that cost beginners. The biggest mistake? Throwing away ugly stones that are actually valuable. Surface weathering and coatings can be removed. I've seen beginners discard rough stones covered in iron oxide because they looked worthless, only to watch experienced collectors grab them immediately. Another error is focusing exclusively on blue, pink, yellow, and especially color-changed sapphires. Stones that look different colors under different lighting can be more valuable than blue. Don't create a mental filter that causes you to ignore anything that's not blue. Confusing industrial corundum for gem-quality sapphire wastes time and creates false excitement. Industrial corundum is opaque, lacks luster, and often has a grainy appearance. It's technically sapphire, but it's worth pennies per pound as abrasive material, not dollars per carat as a gemstone. Finally, beginners often fail to record locations where they find promising stones. Unlike what most people think, if you find one sapphire in a spot, there are likely others nearby from the same source material. Mark your successful locations with GPS coordinates so you can return, especially after storms that bring fresh material to shore. Delivering on early promises. Remember when I mentioned that home testing method? Here's exactly how to do it. This is the technique that changed everything for me, because it provides near certain confirmation without sending anything to a lab or spending hundreds on professional testing. You need three things: a kitchen scale that measures to at least 0.1 grams, about $10, a cup of water, and a way to suspend your stone in the water. The specific gravity test is foolproof because sapphire's density is distinctive and measurable. First, weigh your dry stone and record the weight. Let's say it's 3.0 grams as an example. Next, fill your cup with water and place it on the scale. Zero out the scale so it reads 0.0. Now, using a thread or thin wire, suspend your stone in the water without letting it touch the sides or bottom of the cup. The scale will show a number. This represents the water displacement. Comprehensive validation system. Here's the calculation. Divide the dry weight by the water displacement weight. For sapphire, this ratio should be very close to 4.0. If you get 4.0 plus or minus 0.1, you likely have real corundum. Quartz gives you about 2.65, glass around 2.5, and spinel about 3.6. This single test confirms material identity with impressive accuracy. But there's something even more important. Combining multiple tests creates certainty. Use the specific gravity test alongside the hardness test and visual examination. If a stone passes all three, correct density, scratches ceramic but not the other way around, and shows characteristic luster, you can be confident in your identification. The flashlight test provides another confirmation method. In a dark room, shine a bright LED flashlight through your stone from different angles. Sapphire shows even light transmission with its characteristic color. Glass often shows swirls or uneven coloring. Synthetic sapphire, which occasionally turns up in beach environments from discarded jewelry, can be tricky, but natural stones typically have subtle inclusions and color variations that synthetics lack. Clear success indicators. So, how do you know definitively when you've found something real and valuable? Professional prospectors use a checklist, and you should too. Density check. The stone feels noticeably heavier than ordinary rocks of similar size, and specific gravity testing confirms a reading near 4.0. Hardness. Verification. It easily scratches glass and ceramic tile, but steel files struggle to market. Use extreme caution with this test to avoid damaging the stone. Luster. Confirmation. Even when dirty or weathered, the stone shows that characteristic adamantine shine when clean and wet, reflecting light with particular intensity. Transparency. Assessment. When held to bright light, at least some light passes through the stone, even if it appears cloudy or colored. Total opacity suggests industrial grade. Structure recognition. Subtle hexagonal symmetry remains visible, or you can observe crystal face remnants, even on rounded specimens. If your find checks 4 out of 5 of these boxes, you've got real corundum. Whether it's gem quality depends on transparency and color quality, but you found something genuine. Quality assessment techniques. Wait until you see what separates a commercial find from a keepsake. Color quality in sapphires follows specific guidelines that professional gemologists use. For blue sapphires, the ideal is cornflower blue, a medium-toned, slightly violet-tinged blue that's neither too dark nor too light. Hold your stone next to a white background in natural daylight, not yellow indoor lighting that distorts color perception. Does the color appear vibrant and saturated? Can you see the color clearly, or is it muddy and indistinct? This simple test indicates potential value. Examine the stone's transparency by holding it between you and a bright light source. Can you see the light source's shape through the stone, even if the image is blurry? That's translucent and potentially cuttable. Can you read text through it when placed on a page? That's approaching transparent and very valuable if color is good. Size matters, obviously. Stones under 1 carat, about 0.2 grams, are difficult to cut profitably unless color and clarity are exceptional. Anything over 3 carats with good color and transparency is a significant find worth professional appraisal. The final quality factor is cutting potential. Even experienced prospectors can't accurately predict how much finished weight remains after cutting, but you can estimate. Are major cracks visible? Those require cutting around, reducing yield. Is color evenly distributed or concentrated in one area? Uneven color affects cutting decisions and value. How to sell your precious stones in America. That's how you'll find sapphires and beach rocks. Now let's talk about turning those finds into actual money. Selling precious gems in America comes down to choosing the right channel for maximum return. And this is where most beginners leave thousands of dollars on the table. Now let's talk about what you actually do with your finds. Because discovering sapphires is only half the journey. Selling precious gems in America comes down to choosing the right channel for maximum return. You have several options, each with different pros and cons. Local gem and mineral shows are excellent starting points. You'll meet dealers face to face, get immediate cash offers, and can negotiate. These shows happen regularly across the country, and dealers at these events are actively buying rough material. The advantage? No shipping risks and instant payment. The downside? You're limited to whoever's at that particular show. Online marketplaces like eBay or specialized gem forums reach a much wider audience, potentially driving up prices through competitive bidding. However, you need quality photos, accurate descriptions, and patience. Professional prospectors often use online platforms for higher value stones, where waiting for the right buyer pays off significantly. Direct sales to lapidaries and gem cutters can be profitable, especially for larger, quality rough. These professionals know exactly what they're looking at and will pay fair prices for material they can work with. Build relationships with local cutters. They become repeat customers when you consistently bring them good material. For potentially high-value finds, getting a professional appraisal first is worth the investment. Organizations like the American Gem Society or independent certified gemologists can verify what you have and provide documentation that justifies premium pricing. Never sell a significant stone without knowing its true value. That's how beginners lose thousands of dollars to savvy buyers who recognize quality the seller doesn't understand. Avoid pawn shops and "we buy gold" type establishments for gemstones. These businesses typically offer 20 to 30% of actual value because they're not specialists and need huge margins. Similarly, be cautious with online instant offer services that ask you to ship first. Many lowball offers hoping you'll accept, rather than pay return shipping. The secret is building a network. Join local gem and mineral clubs, attend shows even when you're not selling, and connect with serious collectors and dealers. Your reputation as someone who finds quality material opens doors to private sales at premium prices. Some of the best deals happen through direct contact with collectors who'll pay top dollar for specific types of stones they're seeking. Realistic motivation. Here's the truth. Most beach prospecting trips won't yield gem-quality sapphires. It's not easy, and anyone who tells you otherwise is lying. You'll spend hours examining rocks, get excited about promising finds that turn out to be quartz, and question whether it's worth the effort. But it's definitely possible. I've watched complete beginners make substantial finds on their first serious outing, and I've seen experienced collectors search for months between discoveries. The difference isn't luck, it's persistence combined with knowledge. What keeps professional prospectors returning to the same beaches year after year? Understanding that probability works in your favor over time. Each stone you examine trains your eye better. Each test you perform refines your technique. Each location you visit expands your geological understanding. The real treasure isn't just the sapphires you find, though those are exciting and potentially valuable. It's the skill development, the connection with natural processes, and the satisfaction of discovering something valuable that thousands of other people walked right past. Expansion pathways. That's how you'll start finding sapphires in beach rocks. But this is just the beginning. Once you've mastered beach prospecting, you can explore creek beds and river gravels where larger stones often accumulate. The techniques I've shown you work in those environments too, with some modifications. I've created additional content about processing larger quantities of material using simple concentration techniques. Basically, letting water and gravity do the sorting for you. There's also fascinating information about what to do once you've accumulated several finds. Cutting options, selling strategies, and whether DIY faceting is worth learning. Understanding sapphires also opens doors to recognizing other valuable gems. The observational skills you've developed apply to rubies, which are actually the same mineral as sapphire, just red. Garnets, spinels, and even jade in appropriate locations. If this video helped you understand what to actually look for instead of wandering beaches randomly, hit that like button so more people can learn these techniques. Drop a comment telling me what region you're searching in. I read every single comment and often provide location-specific advice. Subscribe and turn on notifications because next week, I'm revealing the river gravel technique professional prospectors use to find stones 3 times larger than typical beach finds. Here's what most people don't know. Rivers concentrate gems differently than wave action, creating spots where substantial stones accumulate in predictable patterns. That video includes GPS coordinates of legal, publicly accessible locations where people are actively finding valuable stones right now. Before you head out to your nearest beach, download my free PDF checklist in the description below. It's a 1-page field reference covering every test and characteristic we discussed today. Print it, laminate it, and take it with you. That single sheet will prevent you from walking past valuable finds. Now get out there and start looking at ugly beach rocks differently. That muddy, boring-looking pebble? It might just fund your next vacation. The sapphires are there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone who knows what to actually look for. Now you're that someone.